Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am the Night Walker, and tonight we're going to talk about the movie Revenge. Now, this is a rape revenge film, which I've seen quite a few of these. And in case if you're wondering, no, I don't get off on the idea of rape. Okay, I just, this is a subgenre of the horror genre, and if you look at my collection, you're going to find out I don't just particularly subscribe to just one subgenre. I don't say, oh, I just like slasher movies, or oh, I just like ghost stories, or oh, I just like zombie movies. If you look through my collection, you're going to see that I try to run the gamut. I try to have a little bit of everything, and Rape Revenge falls into that category. Now, this movie, it's an interesting film. I will say that it's an interesting little flick. The story concerns this woman named Jennifer, played by Matilda Lutz, who she does give a good performance in the film. I will say, she's incredibly beautiful. She's lovely, but she does give a good performance in the film. And in the movie, she plays Jennifer. And oh, by the way, she's also in that movie Rings. So in case if that interests you, but so anyway, she plays Jennifer, and the movie opens. She's going with this man named Richard, and it almost comes off like a 50 Shades of Grey kind of a thing. This guy Richard, obviously he's very rich. He's got a lot of money, so he takes her to his place, and it's kind of like a getaway. And so they get there, and then they have passionate sex and everything else, and it's kind of really wild and everything. But at the same time, though, we find out, well, Richard gets away from her. She already knows, but Richard gets away from her, and he calls his wife to check on her and to check on his kids. And she knows that she's in an affair with a married man who already has a family. So the very next day, she's going to the kitchen to get a glass of water and get, some fruit to eat. And two of Richard's friends, I believe one of them is named Stanley, I think, and the other one is Demi or something. Anyway, they're these two guys. They show up unexpected, and she's standing there just wearing like a little shirt and her underwear. And so, of course, these guys, they're definitely getting an eyeful, and they like what they see. And Richard comes out. He, talks to the two guys. And it turns out that, these two guys were to come up with Richard, and they were going to have kind of a hunting trip. And so they're all just hanging out, doing whatever. And at the beginning, it's established. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this. At the beginning, it's established that the helicopter pilot gives Richard some peyote. They told him, you guys, you two want to have fun here. Take some of this peyote. And so, he gives the peyote to Jennifer for safekeeping. She's got like a little locket around her neck. She wears it, so. Um, but anyway, so the two guys, they're hanging around, and, they're having a party. Well, Jennifer, she decides, she's looking very gorgeous, very delicious, and decides to do a dance for them. And unfortunately, I believe the character is Stanley, if I remember, that's his name. He kind of takes things the wrong way. He thinks that Jennifer is this kind of hot to trot, easy woman who, doesn't have a problem spreading her legs for any man. And we find out the next day that that's not the case, because Richard goes off. He's going to get, the other guys, he's going to get their hunting licenses. And that's when he decides to make his move on Jennifer. And Jennifer, tries to be nice about it. She tries to explain to him that she's not interested in him that way. And of course, he doesn't take to this very well. And so he decides to go ahead and force himself on Jennifer. And he rapes her. And then, what's really shocking is that when Richard comes back and, tells him about what he had done, Richard's basically his whole thing is to go to Jennifer and basically just try to kind of blackmail her into not saying anything. Because at one point Jennifer is talking about like her goal is she wants to go to LA and be noticed and everything. And he goes to Jennifer and tells her, I'll give you all this money. And, the thing is, you got to go to Canada and you can never say anything about what happened here. Basically, I'll set you up for life, but all you got to do is keep your mouth shut. And Jennifer decides she doesn't want to go for that. She's like crying, I want to go home. And so, he starts in with, you bitch, who do you think you are? And all this. And so he's hitting her. And so she, goes running off. And so Richard and the other two guys, they go chasing after her, and they come to a cliff, and she's really got nowhere to go, and she just she's persistent. She tells him, "I want to go home. Call the chopper. Just let me go home," and all this kind of stuff. And so he fake calls the chopper, say it'll be here in half an hour, and all this. He pushes her off the cliff, and she falls a very long way, and gets impaled on a branch. And I got to be honest with you, the first time I saw this, I thought what it was is she wakes up, and honestly, I thought she'd come back from the dead because it seemed. I mean, I'm not saying it's totally impossible, but it just seemed like to survive that big of a drop and to get impaled on a branch and stuff like that. It seemed like you really, really have to have the luck, man, to be able to survive something like that. But I guess it's possible. I guess it could happen, but it just seemed, But just for me personally, when I first saw this, I thought she'd come back from the dead. I thought she was like a ghost or something. And so the guys, they're like, we're gonna get her body, we'll dispose of her, and nobody will ever know. And then the one guy, Stanley, he's like, oh my god, why'd you have to push her for, and this and that and everything else? And he's all like, why'd you have to rape her as soon as my back was turned, asshole? It's like if you hadn't gone and forced yourself on her, then I wouldn't have had to, do what I did. So it's like we're gonna go get her body, we're gonna dispose of it, and that'll be that, and we go along our merry way. So at this time though, she wakes up, she finds she's got a lighter, she's able to light the brush from under her, she's able to break the branch so she can crawl away, just as they're coming to get her. So they realize she's still alive and that she's out there wandering around somewhere. And so their goal is to try to find her, basically hunt her down like an animal, find her, take her down, then, just dispose of her. And there you go. That'd be the end of it. So, but it turns out, we find out Jennifer, she's a bit of a tough girl, she's not as easy as she appears to be. So, she's out hiding and everything, and she's able to sneak up on, I think it's Dimmy, I think that's his name. And I'm going to get in some spoilers here, but, so they get into this fight and everything else. He kind of sets up, we find out that he set it up so that Jennifer would think that he's vulnerable so she could come up and sneak up on him and get the drop on him. But it turns, because, he's got his gun sitting away, he's standing looking like he's taking a whiz. And so she comes up, she grabs the gun, and he's like, no, don't do it. And she pulls the trigger, and nothing happens. And then he's like, ha ha ha, you stupid bitch, and all this stuff. And he's hitting her and trying to drown her in this pond. And ha, yeah, the way I prefer to do it is I prefer to have my prey come to me and make them think I'm vulnerable and all this kind of stuff. So at one point, so Jennifer, she's actually able to get a hold of a knife that he's got, in a holster, and she stabs him in the eyes with it, which also too, it does say here, the bloodiest and most important movie of the year. I don't know about most important, but it definitely is bloody. So that's one thing I can definitely say. If you like your blood, this movie's got you covered. So you like blood and gore, and that's surprising because I was thinking R-rated, couldn't really be that bloody, but no, actually, this movie's got quite a bit of it. Anyway, I digress. So let's get back to it. But so anyway, so now she's got, she takes some of his stuff. She's got like his gun and his knife and stuff, and she's getting ready to. She's still got the branch sticking out of her, so she needs to deal with that. But of course, the pain is too much. Then she remembers she's got the peyote in the locket, so she's able to take the peyote, and she won't feel a thing now, and so she's able to do the surgery to get the stick out of her. And then she takes one of the guy's beer cans, and she gets it good and hot, and she puts it on there. It actually leaves a mark of like an eagle on there. So so anyway, so now she's kind of patched up and everything, but still at the same time you're kind of like, you really, really, after that, it's like you really need to hurry up and get your butt to a hospital, because it's like, yeah, you cauterize the wound and stuff, but holy shit, that could seriously get infected. But anyway, but she's still got vengeance to mete out. And so the next day, Richard and I think it's Stanley, they find that I'm sorry, I don't really do good at remembering the name of rapist characters in movies. I got to be honest with you. So anyway, so the next day they, they're standing by the pond and everything, and then his body turns up, and so Richard decides to just weigh it down, and they throw the body back in the pond, and the two of them fight, and they decide they're going to split up. Well, Stanley's like, I don't want to split up, and Richard's like, just do it. So he's out driving around, and so he and he encounters Jennifer. Well, he runs out of gas, and then he's trying to put gas in the car. And at the same time, Jennifer is trying to basically do a sniper on him, and she thinks that she killed him. And then the two of them get into a match. I don't want to get into too much detail, so that way you can check this out for yourself. But very violent, very bloody, and I'll be honest with you, that's one thing I'm going to definitely say is like this movie here lately, that's been kind of a thing. A lot of these movies where your lead is a female character, a lot of people have been complaining about this deal where the filmmakers make the characters into Mary Sue's, and in this movie, Jennifer is not a Mary Sue. She's not one of these that she never makes a mistake. She never has a problem. She can handle any situation, no matter what it is. Never even gets so much as a scratch on her or anything like that. No, no. I mean, this movie, Jennifer is pretty much like John McClane in Die Hard. She's getting shot. She's getting cut up. She got impaled on a branch. She's getting the shit stomped out of her. So I mean, if you're going into this thing like, oh boy, it's going to be one of these kind of movies where, she never even gets so much as a nick or anything like that. No, this woman goes through hell in this movie. And I have to say, it's all like, this movie, it does make you cheer for her, and kind of, sort of. I'll get to that in a minute. But anyway, so then, of course, you're getting to the finale where Richard, he's kind of realizing now that, his two buddies are gone and that Jennifer might still be out there. So he decides he's just going to get the hell out. He's going to bail. So he goes to his place. He calls the helicopter pilot. Helicopter pilot's like, I'll be there in half an hour. And then, so he's going to go get cleaned up and get ready to go. And then we have the finale with, Jennifer and Richard. It's a big shootout. There's lots of blood, lots of gore everywhere and stuff like that. And I'm going to leave it at that. But, so yeah, I don't want to say anything more about it. If you haven't seen this movie, go ahead and check it out. Overall, let's see. This isn't a bad movie. Okay, but I will say that I do have some problems with it. Now, the biggest problem that I have is the character of Jennifer, in the sense that when you make a rape revenge movie, now see, the thing is, in rape revenge movies, these are always meant to be pro-female films. You were supposed to always, identify with the female character. Now, don't get me wrong, no woman under any circumstances ever in the history of ever deserves to be raped. Never. Okay? Never rape a woman under any circumstances. Never okay. I don't care what anybody says. Never okay. The problem is the character of Jennifer in this movie, the character is a woman she's considered of questionable morals. Okay, so it's hard to ask an audience to identify or to sympathize with this female character who basically the audience could potentially see her as a skank. Because here's this woman, she's walking around, she's wearing pretty much next to nothing. She's showing off her shit. She's going off with a man who she knows that he's married, she knows that he's already got a family and everything else, but because he's good looking and because he's got a shit ton of money, she's going to go screw around with him anyway. And it's like, so you're kind of stretching it a little bit when you're asking the audience to care about a character like this. I mean, ultimately, Jennifer still is, when you consider the moral high ground, it's like she still has that over the men. I mean, she's still the best character in the movie. But at the same time, it's like, well, that's not really saying much. You want to see Jennifer survive. You want to see her make it out. But at the same time, it's all like, that kind of thing still keeps gnawing in the back of your mind. It's like, she's not that great of a character to begin with. I mean, it's like this woman, she goes and, that's what I'm saying. You don't ever want, you don't want to have your audience question, your female lead in these kind of movies because, you know, that's the thing. You could potentially get, people in the audience, men and women probably alike to say, well, here's the thing, she goes there, she's screwing around with a man, she knows he's married, she knows he's got kids, she's, walking around all scantily clad, these two scuzzy looking dudes show up, and, she's, like I said, she's scantily clad, she's dancing for these guys, all this, she's bumping and grinding with them and all this other kind of stuff. It's like, did she seriously expect this sort of thing to end well? So that's kind of the biggest issue I have with this movie is like, when you make a rape revenge movie, your female lead needs to always have the moral high ground. You don't sit there and you don't give your female lead characteristics that make the audience potentially hate her. Okay, and but still, like I said, she's still easy enough to follow, easy enough to care about, and things like that. But like I said, that's the biggest gripe I have with the movie. The only other thing that I would complain about is just that this movie is. I had the same complaint when I reviewed on my old channel when I reviewed I Spit on Your Grave, Deja Vu. These movies sometimes they are really stretched out too damn long. And this movie here, it runs about 108 minutes. And it really does not need to be that. And you got these shots, you got these like artistic shots that the director did of like, like ants scurrying on the ground and like a drop of blood, falls on the ant and stuff like that. Don't really need that. Okay. I mean, and then, some parts of it's like, come on, you really are just trying to pad out this movie, aren't you? And then, I do not need, seriously, I do not need slow motion close ups, extreme close ups of this big fat slob chewing on candy, his mouth, chewing on, ripping candy apart, chewing it. I don't need close ups of that. So I mean, I know I sound like I'm coming down pretty hard on this movie, but ultimately, this movie is enjoyable, as, for what it is. But you know, yeah, it's just when it comes to rape revenge movies, I've seen them done better. Like I said, I've seen them done with more relatable, more sympathetic female leads, and like I said, it's like stop trying to pad these movies out for God's sake. This movie didn't need to be 108 minutes. It could have been 90 minutes, and you would have been fine. You didn't need to sit there, and it's like, oh my God, especially around the end when I mean, I know the idea is to try to create tension and build suspense, but it's like around the end, when you're building up towards the climax between Richard and Jennifer, it's like really you really could have used the editing machine on that just a little bit more. But anyway, this movie here, it's not bad. One thing I will give this movie credit for is that it doesn't have an explicitly graphic rape scene, which I don't, when I see a rape revenge movie, it's like, I can just get, just give me a hint, a suggestion of it. You don't have to sit there and show it in, all its, gross, grotesque glory. I can, just give me the idea of it. And it's like, that's enough. And that's what this movie does. This movie doesn't dwell on the rape. It doesn't, have this really long drawn out scene. It just gives you enough of an idea as to how grotesque and unpleasant rape is. And that's all you need, I mean, I understand, like, in the original I Spit on Your Grave, it's like Miyazaki filmed it and tried to show it in all its grotesque brutality to, to get you to sympathize with the woman and stuff. But still, it's like, it's one of those things. You really don't have to go overboard with it. And this movie doesn't. So the movie doesn't focus on the rape too much, which, that's fine. I don't really need that. But yeah, and ultimately the men in this movie, they're disgusting and repulsive, and you do want to see Jennifer, get some form of retribution on these guys. But yeah, like I said, I just have a few problems with it. But yeah, but hey, I had the same problems with the I Spit on Your Grave remake. In that movie, the female lead wasn't particularly Sarah Butler's character. She wasn't particularly likable either, and that movie, in my opinion, that movie tried to seem like that was trying to make the men seem more like the rapists seem more likable. But at least this movie doesn't try to do that. The men in this movie are disgusting, and you want to see them go down, but anyway. So I'm rambling now, and I'm just repeating myself. I'm sorry, but ultimately, I would say, yeah. just know what you're getting yourself into with these kind of movies. It's a rape revenge movie, so you know, understand this. Understand what you're going to be watching. So there you go. That's pretty much about it. So if you don't like those kind of movies, I would recommend you stay away from it in the first place. Don't watch it. But you know, if you have a strong constitution and you're willing to be brave and to go after it, attack it with gusto, I say. But yeah, good movie, good premise. I like the idea of taking her out, and trying to hunt her down like an animal and stuff like that. I thought that was kind of an interesting idea. But so anyway, so that's it. I would say, yeah, check it out. Not the best rape revenge movie, but still pretty good for what it is. So if anybody took the time to watch all this, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I honestly hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. And yeah, there'll be weekly videos posted. And until then, take care. And especially when you're out walking around at night, because I am the night walker and you never know. You might just run into me in the dark. Bye.